Hey, welcome back everyone. So today I've got something for you a little bit different. We're going to do our brand new series of Technique in 10. So what we're going to do with that is show you some of the fundamentals of scale modeling. Anything that goes from the basics of just cutting pieces off the sprue is what we're going to get to today, on up to getting into more weathering topics and things that are kind of considered advanced, you could say. So today we have cutting off from the sprue. So we've got our bomber here that we're going to do a few things with. I'm going to show you a few different methods of cutting pieces off. So to do so, I've got some trusty God hand nippers. This is my go-to. And the way that I do this is I'm going to get as close as I can. So I guess the gate would be the technical term. And I'm going to cut right there. So I'm going to continue that on. And you can see how easy these God hands just slices through the plastic without any drama. Now, I wish I found my better grade of God hands that I'll have to look around for, because they cut even a little bit better than what we got here. So with this, not bad, fairly close and fairly smooth. We don't really have like big gouges that are coming out to it, but that's not good enough for what we want to do in the future with marrying the parts together. So what I've got, Gunprimer Raser. And so I'll put that link in the chat here. Now with this, the reason why I like it is it kind of is foolproof. So you just go along right there. And you just file it down. And it's going to get near perfect. Now that one looks like there was a little bit of binding, so it's not going to look the best. Let's try here. So what it does is, with this you can sand it or file it down, and it's going to get down to the surface without going too much. So with that, very nice and smooth, as close as I can get. It just kind of automatically stops on its own. It's pretty cool with that. So go with these other pieces. Get them married up. Okay, and here's our result. Pretty nice. You can try to get real close, and you can see it's pretty dang good. I might follow that up with something like 1000 grit sandpaper just to make sure it's nice and perfect when we get to the scene. So that is kind of the way I do fuselage halves or other parts. All right, so when it comes to the delicate parts, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So what we got is just really, really fine, delicate part there. So when I go to that, I'm actually not going to try to do this because it can do some strain on it. What I'm going to do is actually give it plenty of extra room, and then so it doesn't drop on me. Cut that there. Now I've got a little bit of extra, but what I can do is I can come along, then I can snip off the rest. And then still a little bit of cleanup, but at least we haven't done any damage. So another example, so this type of piece for this guard can be another example of where that can go wrong. So you don't have to always snip as close as you can, but if you give it a little bit of room just to get it off of the stiff runner. So now with it off and those little extra pieces, then we can come along So a little bit more of it off, but I'm going to have to come along and clean it up with some sandpaper or some kind of file and get it to where it should be. Okay, and then since these guys are so sharp, what about glass parts? This is something you definitely don't want to do with just some regular old pliers. But if you look, slice right through. So there you go. And to clean up that part, so need to do some test fitting, but I think that is going to do quite well. So let's compare this to some of the other methods. So one, let's get into, you know, they're not cheap, but these are Xurons. They're pretty expensive cutters, but let's see how much cleanup we might have to do. I'm hesitant to really do it on a good piece like the fuselage, so we'll probably do it on these tails. But just take a listen. Now let me be. So unless you can get a really big snap as you're having that force. So not bad. You can see not the cleanest cut with it. But did we necessarily break it or anything like that? No. So we can come along with something like this file. It can look pretty good. But what about those delicate parts? Is that the only way? Is just sprue nippers? No. Let's go with some old school techniques. So I get into just kind of this razor saw. And these work well for something like this wing here. So I can do is just use the wing itself as a guide. And slice. Okay. And does it work? Sure. I mean, it's not like it damaged it, and you're fairly close, so you could use that. Okay, but now you say, Cameron, I don't want to spend like 30 bucks or something on this thing for filing down. What else can I use? All sorts of stuff. So this is a pretty cheap file I've used extensively for all sorts of different stuff, and it can work pretty well. You have some stuff here that we need to clean up. If you're really gentle, you can file down that part. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, what I'm going to do is follow this up then with some fine sanding stick like so. Just gently, because you don't want to break the part. Yeah, nice and gentle. And it looks pretty good for our purposes. Move on. So even this part that we said that was just kind of probably not usable, but going to require a lot of work. And that looks pretty good. We won't know for sure until we put some primer on it, but that will be that. So what about using these on a big fuselage piece, like this wing? So it'll definitely do it, but you got to be a little bit careful because you might overdo it. When we get into what we're using, the razor, you can see it does a much better job. Probably still need to do some polishing. I don't know what's with the glass files. It feels like it gets like 99% to perfect, and then you got to do a little bit more to get that 100%. But as long as it makes the job easier, that's all that matters. So you can use these and get down to there. We'll be showing you a little bit more with these sanding sponges, so as we actually go in and clean up that a bit more. But these will do the job as well. It's just now we potentially can remove some of that surface detail. So that's it for our first video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you learned, what you may agree and disagree with in the comments. We'll see you on the next one.